got a nerdy question to start off your day here. And don't worry, I promise that even if you don't like Star Wars or Star Trek, I'm going to bring this back to the Bible before the end, so stick with me. Here's the question. If you could pick one universe to live in, Star Wars or Star Trek, which would you pick? Surveys say that most people are actually going to pick Star Wars. And yeah, I mean, being a Jedi sounds way cooler than being a red shirt. But I think there's actually something much deeper going on here that does tie into the Bible. Let's talk about why. Hey everyone, I'm Colin, the resident nerd and Bible scholar here at the Bible Uncut and Unfiltered. Here's what I think is actually happening with this question. If you compare the original trilogy of Star Wars to the original series or next gen of Star Trek is a semi-utopian future. It's sleek, it's clean, it's optimized. Humanity has figured it out. Star Wars, on the other hand, is grungy. There's rust, there's decay, there's leaky pipes on the Millennium Falcon. You are just as likely to get robbed in a back alley in Star Wars as you are to die in a space battle. And yet, we'd still rather live there. Because even though Star Trek is objectively closer to what our future could look like, Star Wars feels more like our world. The wear and tear, the chaos, the sense that nobody's fully in control. We relate to that because it's lived in. The grit isn't a flaw, it's actually the charm of Star Wars. And honestly, even if humanity ever did reach Star Trek levels of civilization, we'd find a way to run it down until it started looking like the Mos Eisley Cantina, alright? This is why we can't have nice things. But here's why I've been thinking about this week. For a lot of people, especially people raised in evangelical or fundamentalist circles of Christianity, the Bible was presented like Star Trek. It's clean, it's polished, everything lines up nicely. Every hero is heroic, every passage fits neatly with every other passage if you have just enough faith. It's a well-oiled, gleaming machine. But then you actually read it, and you find the horror stories. Passages that make preachers tie themselves in knots trying to explain. Timelines that just won't reconcile. Heroes who act like villains. Villains who act like heroes. Moral complexity that doesn't resolve cleanly by the end of the book. And for a lot of people, that's really jarring. It almost feels like betrayal. It's kind of like buying something on eBay listed as new and then having it show up heavily used. That's frustrating. That's disappointing. You feel misled. But here's the thing. You wouldn't feel that way about the product if the listing had just been honest from the start. The product didn't fail you, the description did. If you were to sit down and watch Star Wars for the first time expecting sleek, pristine surfaces like Star Trek, you might hate it. But if you know what you're getting into, you can love it for what it is. The problem was never the movie, the problem was the mismatched expectation. Now let's tie this back into the Bible. Imagine you were taught from childhood to ignore the lived-inness of Star Wars, to pretend it looked more like Star Trek, to rationalize every piece of rust, every dent, every inconsistency, until you convinced yourself that it actually was pristine. And then, one day, the curtain falls, and you see it clearly for the first time. You'd be angry, but understandably so. But here's what I want you to hear. That anger is not the Bible's fault. It's the fault of whoever handed you a description that was never accurate. See, the Bible's always been messy. That was never the problem. The problem was being told that it wasn't, and then feeling like your faith had to fall apart the moment you noticed it was. Just because something looks worn doesn't mean it's worthless. In Star Wars, the aging is what gives things character. The Millennium Falcon is a piece of junk. And it's also made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. The dings and the dents are the story. So if you're coming to the Bible fresh, or coming back to it after walking away for a while, go in expecting a lived-in universe. It's got scratches. It's got unresolved tension. It doesn't always tie up in a nice, neat bow. But if you're going to let go of the expectation that it should look like Star Trek, you might find out it's got a lot more to offer than you thought. Might not look like much, but it's got where it counts.